Good night, good evening, and welcome to the Drink and Click Show. We have a special show for you tonight about post-processing. Unfortunately, we do not have founder Juan Gonzalez with us tonight. He said that he was stuck on a train in South Korea. Does anybody believe that? I think he's holed up in a South Korean bar with a bunch of hottie toddies.
Yep.
But that's okay. We can run the show without him. I'm going to ask for a raise, though.
I think you deserve it.
Yeah, this is hard work. Sitting around talking to awesome people about the things we love to do, it's rough. Okay, well, we have special guest Mark Rodriguez with us tonight. He's going to give us some of his knowledge about post-processing and show us a few tricks. We also have a wonderful panel of photographers, very active online and in the photography community. So I'm going to start off by introducing these wonderful people. We're going to start with Mark. Mark, tell us about you. Tell us a little brief bit. We'll come back to you in a bit.
Wait, you're going to come back to me, or you want me to talk?
No, we'll come back to you and learn more about you and your processing. But tell us where you are and what you do for a living and where we can find you on the web. And get closer to your mic wherever it is, because I can barely hear you all of a sudden.
I am a meat popsicle.
No.
Hold on. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Testes, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I'm Mark Rodriguez. Is that better?
That's a little better. Maybe you should just start yelling.
I could do that too. Is that better?
That's much better.
All right. I'm Mark Rodriguez. I'm a graphic designer, actually, out of Tampa, Florida. I'm an artist, actually. I do a lot of things. I do photography. I do graphic design. I do logo work. I do animation. I like to create things. That's what I do. I like to just whatever it is, I like to make it and do it, and that's kind of what I do. I'm on G+. I'm on Facebook. I do photography. Like I said, that's kind of what I've become known for on G+. But I just like doing all kinds of different things. So
Mark Rodriguez, the makey doer.
Makey doer. That's me. I like the makey. I like the doey.
And you are lovingly known on the interwebs as Godriguez.
I am the Godriguez.
How did that happen? What's that all about?
It actually started on Facebook. There was a comment thread with a friend of mine, and one of my sayings I always say is, "I'm not a god, but I play one in Photoshop." So that's kind of like my catchphrase. And somehow in the thread, she was talking about something that said, "I'm not a god, but you can call me Godriguez." So it just was just like a kind of a run-of-the-mill just comment, and it kind of stuck. And she even, this friend of mine actually made me a shirt that actually says that I am Godriguez. And from there, it was solidified, and it just from there, I've always been kind of known as Godriguez. And then since being on G+, I did a shot where a selfie where I was sort of Jesus with Christmas lights, and it kind of.
Oh, that's a great one. I remember that one.
And it just stuck there then, so it kind of at two different places. It kind of had two different meanings, but yet it still kind of solidified it on both places. So I went with it.
Rolls off the tongue so well. Godriguez.
I went with it, so it's Godriguez. So yes.
Has that leaked over into your everyday life outside of the interwebs? Are you Godriguez with your friends there too?
I'm Godriguez with my daughters. Okay. Yes, so they actually even call me Godriguez at times, and yeah, so yeah, it's definitely gotten into my home life as well. So yeah.
That's fun. Well, thank you for being on tonight, Mark. We'll come back to you in just a bit and start talking about post-processing with you.
Okay.
I'm going to start. I think since Hangouts have changed, we don't all see each other in the same order anymore. It used to be an alphabetical order thing. But I'm just going to start with who's on the left of my screen, and that's Christy Nielsen.
Oh, hi. I'm Christy Nielsen.
Hello.
I'm an artist and photographer, and I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth now. Just moved back here about a month ago from Los Angeles. So, and I'm just started the Drinking Click DFW.
Yes, you
Yeah.
used to lead Los Angeles chapter and did a really great job. And we were sad when we found out you were moving, but we were so happy that you wanted to keep leading a chapter in your new place. So,
yeah, it's very fun.
Great things from the Dallas chapter while you're there.
I think they will be. Yeah, we had our first event. They were really good, fun people. So I'm excited about it. I think they'll be good. And I'm all over the web. Just Christine Nielsen. I use my real name everywhere. That's me.
What's your day job? What pays the bills?
I'm looking for work right now. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're a makey doer too, right?
I'm a makey doer. Yes.
Sweet. And what's your the pussy that you've got in the bedroom with you?
What's her name? Oh, that's Jada. Yeah,
she's taking a bath.
I'm staying in this house right now until I find a place. But yeah, that's Jada.
Is that your cat?
Yeah. She's just having a bath.
We like that. We like guests, unexpected guests on the show are fun.
She might come say
wild
hi.
card. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show tonight, Christy.
Thanks.
Up next, we've got Jake Johnson.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Jake Johnson. I'm up in Seattle, Washington. You can find me at Jake Johnson Photos with an F, Photos.com, and happy to be here.
What's your day job?
My day job, I'm a tree doctor. So I go around,
that's awesome.
And I'm an arborist, so I go around and talk to people about their trees and look at them and fix them or cut them down or do whatever. So it's fun times.
Could have used your help. We had a tree in the front yard that was disgustingly diseased.
I don't know anything about that. Sorry. You know how many
You're
times
a tree doctor.
I go to a party and I tell people what I do and they say, "Oh, I've got a tree in my front yard. Can you come and look at it?" Like, it happens all the time. So I'm gonna start telling people I'm like a garbage man or something. You know.
But tell them you're like an actual doctor, and they're gonna start telling you about their heart problems, and then give them advice.
Yeah, my wife's a nurse.
Okay, here's
so
what
I
you do.
Say, talk to my wife.
Yeah, our tree is gone, and that's your fault, Jake, because you didn't step in and tell me what to do.
All right, well, let me know next time.
Yeah. So you can be found on the web in all the same places we can, right? G+.
Yep, exactly. And then Facebook, Google+, JakeJohnsonPhotos.com. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Well, we're glad to have you on the show tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
And last but not least, we have Sandra Parlow.
You got it right.
Yay. I got it right. I said Sandra instead of Sandra.
You know what? I like the way you say it, though. I sound more interesting that way.
Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandra Parlow. I live in Canada. I am a photographer here on G+. In my real life, I am a custom picture framer. Been doing that for 18 years. So I get to work with art all day, every day, which is really kind of great. So
no complaints, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes, a job is a job,
yes, I
right?
have some. Let me see what they are.
What's that?
I said no complaints, and you're like, no, I have some. Let me see.
Well, no, everybody loves, has good and bad parts of their job, but no, I do feel very fortunate with what I do. So, yeah, it's good. It allows me to be creative in my everyday life, so.
That is good.
Yeah.
And did you say, I'm sorry if I missed it, did you say you had a website, or were you just saying?
Well, I don't right now, but surprisingly enough, I will have a Smug Mug site soon.
I was wondering.
I haven't heard anything about it yet, but I'm still, it will be, soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I have sent out your information, so you'll probably get somebody in touch with you soon.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've always been kind of curious about it. So, yeah, it'll be good to try it out.
You'll love it.
I like it a lot.
Sure I will.
Yeah, I just made the switch recently, and yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we all Smuggy fans here?
Yes.
Am I the only one who doesn't have one yet? I'm the only one.
I was only not even a month ago up. I had Zenfolio, and I made the switch, and the integration and just the ease of the UI and everything and creating the site was just flawless. I mean, had no problem. So you will love it.
Oh, good. I hope it's easy because I'm really kind of technologically stupid about things like that.
They have great customer service too. They always get right back to you.
Yeah.
Questions. They're awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I'm
Good to know.
Very pleased. Very pleased.
Yeah, and we love them for all of those reasons, and then we're also very grateful to them. They've sponsored Drink and Click consistently, so we are fans of them for that reason as well.
Awesome.
So they're really great. Okay, well, let's get right into talking to you, Mark, about post-processing. You are outspoken and a fan of the post-processing.
Yes, I have no problems processing my work at all. Never have been and never will be. I make no excuses. Like I said, I'm an artist, so whatever means it takes to get to the end result that I'm looking for, I will do it. I don't care if I'm not a pure artist or I'm not a pure photographer or I'm not a pure this or that. I'm an artist, and whatever the fuck it takes to get it done, I will do it because that's the end result. I mean, I get so tired of seeing these posts where people are like, oh, well, you did this or you did that. And it's like, no, screw that. If you're not doing your art for yourself and getting what you want done, then you're lying to yourself. So I make no qualms about that. I do composite work, that I do post-processing, that I do all kinds of shit with my work. Because, yes, I have a vision and I want it done, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it so.
So we've seen other people kind of take some flack for, I don't know, I guess from what I would consider people who would call themselves maybe purist. You mentioned that term a little bit.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't think I've personally had anybody attack me really for over-processing or anything, or whatever they like to call it. But I've seen other people online take those kinds of attacks, and I've been involved in those kinds of discussions. Have you ever had that? I feel like I should call it an attack because I feel like that's what it is. But have you ever had that kind of conversation with someone where someone said those things to you? I mean, because you seem a little defensive. Like, no, this is what I do.
No, I'm defensive for other people. I've actually never had anybody come at me. Maybe because I have always been upfront about it. Like I'm an artist first before I'm a photographer, before I'm anything. So maybe that's why I'm trying to be defensive for other people.
And then they don't even want to go there with you.
Well, because I've seen other people. Well, I've seen other people be attacked for it, and it's ridiculous. I mean, when you start putting rules on art, then it's no longer art. Then it is something else. You know. So when people are like, "Oh, well, you can't do this," no, fuck you. I can do. Can I use the F word? Because I kind of used it already a few times.
That's okay, honey.
Okay. It's like screw that. Then it's no longer art. Then it's something else. Then it's you're classifying it as something else. I'm gonna do whatever I want, like I said, to get what I want out, and other people should be able to do the same thing. They shouldn't feel bad for wanting to do that.
So whatever it takes, basically, to create the end product that you've envisioned. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you can do it, SOOC, then that's awesome, right? But if you
that's great.
You need to, get some layer work done, some compositing, then that's anything that gets you to what you've conceived when you started. So
I mean, I do.
What's your primary workflow? What's your main way of post-processing your work?
Well, I mean, I start off with what I want to do for the shot, and usually I have a pretty clear vision of what I want to do when I go into it, and saying that, I already know what's going to need to be done in post, what's going to be done in camera. I already know that ahead of time, and it kind of goes back to even what I was just saying. To me, that's almost an art form in itself, because when you do composite work, you have to already have the shot in your mind. You already have to think ahead of time what I need to do to sell this shot. I already need to know it. So I already know okay, this part I'm going to do in camera. This part's going to have to be done in post. This part, I know if I don't get it right, I can adjust it later. So that's first and foremost. I know going into it what needs to be done in camera and in post. So that's kind of where I start with it, and then I'll do the shot. I'll set up the lighting. You know, I was just doing shots with my daughters just last night, actually.
You were doing shots with your daughter?
Yeah, it was mezcal. It was okay. But they were, you know, and they're like, when are we going to actually shoot the picture? You know, it took an hour just to set up lighting, you know, and they were just like, when are we going to actually shoot? You know, and I was like, this is what it takes to do a shot. Sometimes you will be there for an hour, hour and a half just getting lighting right. Then you take the shot. The shot is maybe 5 minutes, you know, and then the shot is done. But you know, sometimes it takes all that setup to just get where you want to be enough to then know what you're going to do with it after the fact. And that's the 2 shots I was doing with them was just that. It was like I knew what I needed for the final product, so I needed to know what the lighting was going to be initially. So a lot of times, like I said, it'll take an hour, 2 hours of just setting up lighting just to get it where I want it. So the whole, and again, it goes back to the whole, you know, screw you to the purists. I do spend the time to doing the light, you know, setting up the lights. I try and get as much in camera as I can for that initial shot and do it, you know, properly. So a lot of times I'll put a light here. No, that's not working. I'll do it here. No, that's not working. And I'll keep moving shit around. I'll add light. I'll take away light. I'll put a reflector here. I'll do something here. Whatever it takes, again, to get the shot, or at least the pre-shot of what I know I need for the final shot. So a lot of it is just in the setup, is just even just planning out what needs to be done for the shot. And that's what I do.
So then when you get to the after part, when you're doing your post, what's your go-to?
It depends on what I need. Like if it's a shot that I did get as much as I needed in camera, then straight to Lightroom and just a few tweaks and I'm done. If not, if I know I got to do layering, if I know I got to do any kind of compositing work, you know, I always start in Lightroom to look at my shots. I never use Bridge or anything, but I use Lightroom to look at all my shots. I'll go through them all and pick out what I know I'm going to need. So I'll flag, okay, this is going to be this is a potential, this is a potential, and then I'll go through each one, get the one I need. Sorry, my friends are leaving. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
I thought a party.
Oh, you have headphones on. They can't hear me.
No. So first thing I do is I go through and I flag the shots I'm going to use or potential shots, and then I'll wean down. I'm like, okay, is this one better than this? Is this better than this? Is this better than this? Until I get the shot. And then again, like I said, if it's in Photoshop, then there might be other shots that I got to go through, and then go through those shots for the background or whatever I'm going to add into it. And I'll go through that list, and same process. This is better than this. This is better than that. I'll keep going back and forth until I get the shots that I want for the background, and then I'll bring them all into Photoshop, and then start in. I have a lot of different ways that I do it. Sometimes I start in Camera Raw. Sometimes I don't. I'll go straight from Lightroom straight into Photoshop. If it's something that I know I want to sharpen more and get a little more grit to and a little more edge, out of Lightroom, I'll look at the file number, and then I'll open up Photoshop and then open up the file in Camera Raw first, so I can do some preliminary adjustments before I bring it into Photoshop and start screwing with it there. But a lot of times I'll go straight from Lightroom straight into Photoshop. So I start there and then start going from there.
So in the Lightroom versus Photoshop debate, your answer is both.
Yeah.
That's mine too.
Yeah.
And it just depends. Some of the work I do all of what I need to do in Lightroom, and I don't even open Photoshop.
Yep, absolutely.
There are definite things that require the Photoshop to be opened. So
Yeah.
when you are doing a piece that you've gone to Photoshop and you're doing compositing and all kinds of stuff like that. And I know that there's like so many different instances, but let's say like for those that are like a bigger job, once you get in there and you start working, like what would you say is the average amount of time you actually spend on like one image that you're creating when you're doing one like that with like a bunch of layers and you're making all these decisions? How much time would you say you spend on one image?
Anywhere from an hour up to 10 hours. I don't know if you ever saw the shot I did where I made myself into Spawn, the comic book character. That was about 10 hours in processing of cutting layers, compositing a background, actually building a building. I actually made a building from scratch, pieces of source files. So yeah, anywhere, like I said, anywhere from an hour on up, depending on again the final result. There's no, most of my work is very unorthodox, so there's no true formula to any of it. It could be, like I said, it could be simple and like, okay, quick, I'll cut myself out, drop myself into a background, done. Sometimes it's I've got to then adjust lighting to the background to match the where I was at. That's the biggest part of compositing, is to sell the fake, you've got to sell the lighting. I mean, lighting is that's what photography is, and that's what it kind of goes back to. My background is in art, and knowing how shadows fall, knowing how lighting would affect an object and affect the background, and when you can get all those elements working together, that's when you can, other photographers say, selling the fake. Your Joel Grimes always says that, selling the fake. Yeah, I'm selling the fake, but it takes knowing, if the light's coming across this way, what's it going to do to what's behind it? What's the shadow going to do? What's the lighting going to? How's the lighting going to fall off? What's going to do this? And that's where the time comes in, is spending the time to make sure that shadow falls off properly, make sure that lighting comes across properly, that makes you believe that person was in the scene or whatever. So a lot of the time actually comes into how much I want to sell that fake, so to speak.
Hey, Mark, how long have you been kind of focusing more your efforts in photography?
Probably seriously with photography in the last 3 or 4 years. Actually, I was doing photography before I got onto G+, but was more just I'm taking pictures. I had never really started doing compositing with my own photography. I'd done compositing before with just putting stuff together. I've been working with Photoshop since about '96. So I've always played in Photoshop, and I love getting in there. It's like little dream world. I can do whatever I want. It's my own little fantasy world. I can do whatever I want when I'm in there. So I've been doing Photoshop work since '96, and just playing around with it. And then I actually went to school for 3 years in Atlanta for graphic design, and learned how to apply it then to real world scenarios where I could actually put it into a commercial sense and actually start making money with it, actually as a business sense. But the photography thing, I actually got into photography for the ladies. I'll be honest. and by the ladies, I mean my daughters, because when my daughters were born, I got a digital camera. So when my daughters were born, I got a digital camera, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to do it for real. I always wanted to take pictures, and then I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. But like I said, for the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I took pictures, but I didn't do anything with them. I didn't go beyond just taking pictures. And then I started going, well, I've always done compositing in Photoshop anyways, and then started figuring out ways to light better, to be able to make 2 composites, and then just the progression just was natural, that it just started kind of ebbing into doing it, on my own. And then when I started, doing selfies, then it was a total natural progression. Like, screw this, and I can control everything, and I kind of like that aspect.
Yeah.
Some people say it's narcissistic, but I didn't want to have to subject someone else through all the pains of learning all this shit.
Yeah.
Except for myself. I wanted to put myself through all this before I put somebody else through it. So it's not narcissistic, it's more compassion for someone else having to be put through this that I put myself through a lot of times. So, that's...
Sometimes you can't get what you want from a model either.
No.
You're like, I'll just do it myself. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yep, absolutely.
I always appreciate, Mark, when you did your Spawn picture, and then you took the time to take behind-the-scenes pictures while you were doing it, and then make a big post about it so that we could all see how much work really went into that, because a lot of people probably don't realize how much work you do put into those kinds of shots.
Yeah, that shot, there was about 40 hours worth of work before I took the first shot. So building the costume, creating the cape, getting everything to the point where I could even take the first shot was about 40 hours worth of work before I actually took the first shot in that shot. And then there was probably about 10 hours worth of post-processing getting the final shot. The final thing that I said, this is done, but I don't see it as work when you're producing something that you're passionate about and you want to see it to its end. That is a picture that I've wanted to do for almost 20 years now, actually. I've got, hold on a second. I have this little Spawn character has sat on my monitor for the past 15, 20 years, and I've always wanted to see that shot, and I've never seen it ever done in any comic, and I wanted to see it done. And the Style It, Shoot It, Share It challenge came along, and it was the perfect opportunity to follow through with that. So when I saw that, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it shot and look exactly the way I wanted it to look, and that was exactly the way I wanted it to look. And I don't care how much time it took. My daughters, through the whole process, why are you doing this, Daddy? Why are you doing? Because I want it to be this way, and I want to instill that in my daughters, that sometimes it takes dedication and sacrifice to get things the way you want them to be, and that's and that was what I wanted to see in the end result in that shot was.
Mark, is this the photo?
That's the photo. That is
okay.
it.
I wanted everybody to be able to see.
Oh, okay.
What you were
That's
talking
incredible.
Yeah. So yes, there's not real stuff, and yes, there is real stuff. And I actually did Sandra was saying, I actually did a video, and actually doing behind-the-scenes stuff sometimes is as challenging as doing the shot itself, because you got to remember to do it. That's the hard part, because I get so involved sometimes in doing the shot that I forget to actually do the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, oh, I should have really been documenting this thing I was doing or whatever. It's like, in fact, this whole series of shots that I've been doing these past couple days, I wish I had taken more behind-the-scenes, but I'm in such a crunch time because I'm doing my scavenger hunt shots, of course, that I'm going to do in these 2 days before the deadline.
I haven't started shooting.
As usual. So I'm, as usual, behind, under the gun. So I'm doing all my shots within 2 days that I'm going to submit. So behind the scenes becomes second. If I get it, I get it. But there's been so much stuff. I'm like, I really wish I had, but I haven't. I haven't been as much this time as maybe the last couple rounds, but this time I've been really just kind of swamped with other stuff this round, and I had so many just high hopes for a lot of shots that I'm not going to get to, but I'll probably have maybe 5 shots total this round. But the ones that I am submitting, I'm putting everything into, so they're still going to be, you know, that's you know, the other thing, even with these you know, challenges and competitions and stuff, everything that I try and do, I always look at as a portfolio piece, and I always try and tell other people to do that. You know, don't just do things to do it. Just really, I'd rather see somebody put 100% into just one shot than mediocre on everything they do. You know, just put everything into just one shot and just make one shot fucking badass. Then just skimp on all your shots. I've you know, with the scavenger, I've never submitted 10 shots, because if I can't put everything I can into all those shots, I'm not going to do it. And that's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just personal philosophy, but
it's a quality over quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
I wanted to mention that, so we have questions and comments and things coming in from the viewers, and I wanted to mention a couple of those. A couple of them in particular, talking about this kind of post-processing debate and how it's been going on for a long time. Andrew Greger left this comment in our question and answers. He said, post-processing has been a part of photography since it was invented. Darkroom manipulation is not so different from digital manipulation, only the tools are different.
Yep.
Which I agree with. And then we also had comments. Sorry, I'm going through these and pulling them up, which isn't exactly the same thing, but it's along the same lines, so I'm going to mention these together. Brian Day said, it's interesting that the post-processing debate is as old as photography. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Sergei Produkin-Gorsky in the early 1900s was heavily post-processing his images into color. He actually left a link for this, which is really cool. I'll screen share that too in a second. Ansel Adams was also a pretty brilliant post-processor, he says. And he's got another comment where he's got the link, and I'm going to show you guys. I looked at it really quick.
So, Mark, the one picture that you took, that you created, that sticks in my mind a lot is the feather shot.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to screen share it here in just a second. The reason what really sticks in my mind with it is your eyes.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you know, there's probably a lot that was done with this, but you nailed so many components of photography. You know, you nailed the focus on the shot, and so much. You see these great conceptual photos, and you know, some of the basics are just off. So that I was always impressed with this shot of yours.
Thank you. That was one of the most challenging shots I think I've ever done. I still find feathers in my garage to this day, and still find sticky spots that I step in my garage.
I think you're a bit of an actor, don't you think? Because you're able to get those looks, you know? I don't know. I find that with myself a lot, too. If you're a bit of an actor, you can, yeah.
Well, you need, again, it goes back to selling the shot. Like, what do you need to convey in the shot? And it's not just the lighting, but it is the personality. It's what you're trying to push across. And again, it goes back to the whole selfie debate, where people are like, oh, you're narcissistic or whatever. But what is the difference in being a photographer model as opposed to just being a model and sharing your stuff? Isn't that just as narcissistic? What's the difference? I happen to like being on both sides of the camera and being able to do both. What's the difference of just just straight model showing his stuff? Is that just as bad? I mean, I've never understood that. Like, some people, oh, you just want to be in front of the camera. Well, no, I enjoy actually being on both sides of the camera. I don't mind it. Even if somebody else wanted to ask me to to be their model and shoot, I have no problem with it. Well, what's the difference in just a model themselves? That's all they do, being in front of the camera. I mean, and it does go back to, like you're saying, that the acting. That's what models do. They're actors. I mean, they're playing a role, and they're in front of the camera, and they're trying to convey some emotion through their poses, through their looks, through whatever, and that's, I think it's exactly the same thing. Just because I happen to be on the other side of the camera too shouldn't matter. That shouldn't matter as far as doing selfies and stuff.
Mark, on some of your, I've noticed it mostly on your movie mashups, but on a lot of the work you do, you kind of have this really grungy, gritty sort of texture or surfacing to your work. And I always wonder, like, are you putting noise in there? Are you using a texture? Are you creating your own textures and using them? Like, how do you get that almost kind of a cartoonish, you know what I'm talking about, right? With your Sucker Punch mashups and stuff.
Yes to everything you just said. And again, it goes back to the situation. Everything in post-processing is situational. It's using what you need in that situation, and that's what yes, at times I use noise if it's needed to match what was already there, especially with mashup. With mashups are tricky because, one, you're taking a person that wasn't already intended to be in that poster or whatever, so you're already trying to stick somebody into another situation that shouldn't have already been there, and then you're trying to match lighting, pre-existing lighting, you're trying to match pre-existing texture, you're trying to match pre-existing angles also. So there's a lot of, especially when you get into the movie mashups, there's a lot of elements that you're dealing with to make it, again, sell the fake. So you are dealing with all that. And yes, I use noise. Yes, I use sharpening. Yes, I'll use smoothing actually, and then sharpen to bring it into what you said, kind of a cartoonish look. There's times when I do that. So actually, I will smooth it in order to sharpen it, in order to make it blend. So yes, all of what you just said is true.
Mark,
yes.
I want to read this comment to you, and I want to see what your reaction to it is.
Okay.
So I'm selecting it in the app here. John Soulnier, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, says, I feel too many people are thinking post-process, more than just simple subject impact. The camera can do 90% of what I need. What's your reaction to that?
That's fine. Then do it. Fuck, do it.
Well, he says he thinks too many people are thinking post-process. Do you think? What do you think of that?
Then let those people do it. I don't. That's my answer to them. Then let them do it. If that's what they want to do, then let them do it. This is art, people. This is art. There is no rules to art. As soon as you put rules to art, you've ruined it. So
okay. So we have several that go right along with this. There's another one now. Art Silva says, and this is you just kind of gotten into this realm, is why I kind of interrupted you. The question is, where does photography give way to graphic arts?
Again, there shouldn't be a line, because in graphic design, especially when you do cross that line, especially in advertising, fuck yeah, you're selling the fake. You're making this product look like it's the baddest ass fucking thing in the world. Yeah, you're gonna make it look as cool as hell. So if you're gonna make it if you're talking in a commercial sense, then you look at Alex Koslov, what he does with products.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that real? No, but he makes them look badass. So yeah, you think an iPhone really looks that cool just sitting on a desk? No, but when you put the lighting on it and you put it at this angle and you add all this other stuff, it looks badass. Then no, as far as when you cross over into graphic design, absolutely it's post-processing. I don't care. You show me one ad that has not been post-processed or at least altered in some way of a product, then I'll change my view. But until then, no.
Okay, Chris Lehman says, for us as photographers, why get so worked up up on if people say we can't post-process. I feel people that zero in on that are fearful that we are more creative and we are a threat to them. Does anyone else feel the same? So basically the people who are kind of hating on you because you post-process, do you think that that's coming from a place of, I don't know, fear that we're more creative than them, or maybe that we're more skilled? Or do they just really hate what we do?
I think the internet's full of haters, and nobody's gonna agree on everything, and everyone's gonna bitch about something. So
Hate is gonna hate.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it depends where they were taught. Like, I came from art school, and I'm one of the, I was surrounded by the purists, and I've only started doing a lot of post-processing this past year because we were told get it right in camera.
Yeah.
So, I came from that, and I never really thought anything negative about people who were doing it, but I just never did. So you never know if they were kind of taught that in some class or whatever, and so they just have this idea that you're not doing it right if you have to fix it in post.
I think
but
part of the
I don't
problem.
think it's fixing it. You're just.
I think that that's really telling too, though, is that idea that maybe that is what is thought of by a lot of people, is that if you have to post-process, you must have done something wrong because you have to.
And that's not true. Yeah.
And it's not. It's something we've actually just decided is a part of the process to get the vision that we're going for. And
Well,
so it's a way of thinking then.
Here's my point, actually. A lot of times I can do something quicker in post than I can setting up the lights. I can do it in camera, but a lot of times I don't have the time to set up the lighting and everything in camera. It just, my schedule doesn't work that way. I can actually do something faster in post than I can in camera. I can do it in camera, just like I can draw. I can physically draw, but can I draw faster on the computer? Sometimes I can, because I've got the tools that I can actually draw faster. Can I do it off the camera? Absolutely. So sometimes I guess it does have to be where it's a personal decision. Like, I'm just comfortable doing it that way. It's not that it's right or wrong. I'm more comfortable doing it that way, and that's where it really boils down to. These people might not be comfortable doing it that way. They might not have the skills to do it that way, and it's not a knock on them. It's just I'm more comfortable doing it that way. I don't want to spend hours in my garage, which is hot as hell, sweating, setting up lights, where I can be sitting here in my office and do it quicker in post. Now, if that's right or wrong, I don't care. This is what I do, and this is the way I do it.
I think part of the problem could be too, though, is that there are, like, when you look at your work, Mark, you obviously can tell what you're doing. But there are some photographers who do a lot of stuff, but then they kind of try to force it off as, I didn't do that. Like, they'll take a beautiful starry sky and they'll put it in a spot where it didn't come from, and they'll say, oh, I took this shot and I had this setting and blah, blah, blah. And it's not real, but they're trying to pass it off as real. And I think that's a big issue for people.
That's wrong.
They're liars.
That's wrong. That's as bad as people.
That's a different problem.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's that, and I think you're going to run into that a lot of the time too. I mean, that's just a kind of person rather than.
Yeah. That's like people
That
sharing
gives
other
everyone a
people's
bad
work.
name, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that. There's this idea of saying that you didn't post-process when you did, and which that's crappy. But then there's also, and I'm going to bring up something else that is being commented by people who are watching. I think the intent of the work itself is a big part of how we feel about whether post-processing was done or not. So we've had a couple of people comment on that, and one of them, Andrew Greger, he said, do you guys have any thoughts on post-processing in the realm of journalism photography? And I'm going to take his at the same time as another one from Brian, because Brian also mentioned documentary work, and we can kind of talk about those at the same time. He says, I think it's a matter of intent. If the image is documentary in nature, such as photojournalism, like Andrew was saying, viewers have an expectation of purity. So, we were talking about purity too.
Yeah.
Photojournalists who over-edit are often taken to task on issues of integrity because, whoops, oh, the comments are moving around, sorry, because it would be nice if the world felt what they were looking at as more real than fake. I'm sorry, that was a different comment. It blended it together. So anyway, what they're saying is that when it's photojournalism or documentary nature photography, then obviously to say, yeah, you know, I'm just going to do whatever I want to it in post, there's a kind of a different feel there. There's an expectation of purity already, right?
Yeah, no, I completely disagree in that realm. No, photojournalism should be straight out of camera. That should be what the photographer was in the moment seeing at that moment. It's not supposed to be artwork. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be documenting that moment in time. So at that point, I completely disagree with any post-processing. That should be as pure as possible. So yes, I agree with that statement. It should be.
So when we're thinking of what we do and art and this kind of a creative realm, it really is different than, you know, photojournalistic documentary
Absolutely.
photography.
I think so. Absolutely.
So yeah, intent is definitely.
I'm not shooting for National Geographic. I would love to, but I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to you know, pass off, you know, that I'm in my, you know, in my garage.
Oh yeah, I know.
Dressed up like a cow.
Discussion that our viewers are kind of thinking of when they're.
No. I understand, but in that regard, I completely agree. It should be straight out of camera. You know, that should be as true as it can be, because that is, you're documenting daily life, and that should be the way it is, the way it seems through the camera lens. So.
Carl, and then we have, you know, otherwise have the issue that Sandra was talking about, which is, you know, is this person a big fat liar? Did this actually look like this?
Right. Well, yeah. And there's been, you know, documented cases throughout history of photojournalism actually that were doctored, you know, to look one way or the other. I mean, that's, you know, propaganda pictures obviously took a normal situation and made it, by post-processing, look a different way, whether it be the crop or whether it be, you know, altering the image in general. You know, it's been done to alter history. I mean, it's been done. So yeah. In that regard, that's why I say no, absolutely not.
So Mark, we're going to wrap up with you here, and we're going to talk to our panelists and see some of their work. But before we do, I wanted to ask you a very, very important question that was actually one of our very first questions that came in from our viewers at the very beginning of our show. And that question is from Martin Ullman, and he wants to know, why are you so cool? And it got a whole bunch of +1s, so I could tell that our viewing audience really wants to know this answer to this question. Mark?
You would have to ask my parents that, and they're deceased. So.
Way to cop out on that one.
I don't know. I like having fun, man. I enjoy what I do. I like, you know, creating stuff. I don't know. I like just creating stuff. I don't know if that's cool.
I like the very first part of your answer. I like the very first part of your answer. I like to have fun. It reminds me of that movie that Will Ferrell was in, where he was a race car driver. And
I just want to drive fast.
No, one of the other people in the movie, one of his lines was, "I like to party."
Oh yeah.
And then my husband and I would say that to everything. Like, if anything happened or anybody questioned our motives for anything, that would just be our, like, I like to party. So that's what, you're like, I like to have fun. That's why you're so cool. And I would agree that's actually a really good answer to that question about you, Mark.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
you like to have fun.
I like to have fun. I like to put a smile on people's faces when I post something, or pull on their heartstrings. I mean, I just like to live vicariously, you know, through my work. So if that's the way it comes across to people, then fucking cool. You know, that's
You are so cool, Mark.
then I'm touching people in one way or the other.
I don't know if you want to say that.
Not physically, but
That could be a dangerous thing to put out there.
But if I did, but no, I just like having fun, and if that's what my artwork does for other people and they enjoy it, then so be it. That's cool. I finally, with Facebook and G+, I've got an outlet to kind of show what I do, and with my illustration work or with my photography or whatever, or just try and show just a little vision of daily life or whatever. Then that's cool. I view both of those, more so G+, as just sort of a daily soundtrack of my life. This is what I'm doing, and show it, and if people like it, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool too. I don't hate the haters. I don't mind that. And a lot of people, I'll get negative comments sometimes on some of my posts, and I'll address them directly. I don't like immediately take offense to them. I always question their motives for what they, why they're saying what they're saying, and try and delve a little deeper. And a lot of times we'll come to a common ground, and then they'll understand why I did something or why I said something, and so that's kind of just how I approach it.
Mark, before we move on, I'd like to actually have you screen share a few of your images. Show us what you do to your work and what the end result of your post-processing is.
All right, let me go big screen. How can I'll go slideshow over here. Where's screen share? I think this is that one. That's showing up?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just kind of rattle through, and if you see anything you want to talk about, go ahead. I'll kind of touch on some as I go. Like this shot here, again, I owe a lot of what I do, a lot of my work, actually to G+, and a lot of the people I've met on here. Like this was one of the celebrity deathmatch, the photography deathmatch shots that I did back when Samir and Tamara were doing that. And so a lot of my shots are based off of challenges and pushing. That's always the thing on G+. That's what I love about it. People are always pushing you to see what you can do, and what can you do. And this was a shot that was, all we had was the word inspiration. How can you show inspiration in a shot? And so my inspiration comes from within, and this shot was actually, for all you purists out there, this shot is actually straight out of camera. There is no post-processing in this shot. It is actually straight out of camera. So how about that, motherfuckers? So,
well, I'm sorry, I don't want to see this crap then.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, let me go to something else then. So this was the day after our annual Christmas party, and this was only a very small sample of the leftover bottles that were around my house. And this is how I felt the morning after. So this was post-processed because I actually had my girls' mattresses below me, and I actually did jump off of the ladder several times onto them, and it actually hurts when you jump off of a ladder onto mattresses. I don't care what anybody says, it actually does hurt falling off of a ladder, 8-foot ladder onto mattresses. So this was post-processed. There's the feather shot again. This was the Godriguez on G+ shot. So this was
that's a great one.
It gained me. This was a New Year's morning selfie.
What did I do last night?
Yes, this is what did I do. This was a Halloween selfie, with lighting and stuff like that. This was, of course, Dick in the Box.
Oh, that's my all-time favorite ones.
this was, again, post-processing. All the makeup was done in Photoshop on that one. So look at my camera, again, post-processing. How else could I have done that, otherwise? But that's what I wanted to do. Again,
This
so what?
one.
So what?
This is straight out of camera, isn't it?
Yes, this one was straight. Actually, it is, because I really was in that much pain that night. I had really bad back problems, and I was really feeling that. So yes, this was actually very genuine, straight out of camera. Again, this is actually 12 shots put together to make this one. So again,
Wow.
whatever. I wanted to make this shot. I did. Fire, composite. We're not triplets. This is the same girl. All 3 shots. That's Hilmar, dead in the background.
Hilmar.
Hilmar dead. No.
Killed
My
her.
friend. That really is my tongue, but with strawberry over.
Yeah. Uh huh.
That's straight out of camera, actually. That one, yeah. So there. This one was straight out of camera. When I used to go.
Oh my God, that was a hilarious video.
Oh, making of that one.
Yes.
So, I do what I want to do. This was composite. There's a graveyard I took in the background in Ireland when I was there, and this one. This was, doing Jason.
Really quick, while you're showing us, Devin Bell asked, when you do physical selfies where you're moving or holding something, is someone else hitting the shutter, or do you use a timer?
Timer. Yeah, my selfies are all selfies. I've got a remote switch, and I either shoot in intervals, every 5 seconds takes another shot, or just time it with one shots, just to get it. So, I do not just selfies. There is other stuff that I do. I know I'm kind of known for selfies, but I shoot other things other than myself. I'm not that narcissistic. Yeah. So I do shoot other things. I can shrink myself down to the size of a miniature. I can. So I do shoot other stuff, not just myself all the time. I love buildings and just clean lines and stuff like that. So I do crazy stuff with my daughter running up. That was a timed shot that I knew was going to happen before it happened, and had to make sure I was in the right spot before it happened. There's a place in Key West that has this huge toy store on the upper level, and the stairs leading up, every four stairs says the word toys on it. And I knew as soon as my daughter saw the word toys, she was going to run up those stairs. So I had to have my camera as set as possible before she got to those stairs, knowing she was going to freak out and run up those stairs and get that shot. So that's actually one of my favorite shots I think I've ever taken, because one, I knew her excitement, and I knew how I knew her joy that was going to happen when she saw those stairs, and then two, that I actually captured it. Actually, in that moment, knowing how excited she was going to be, and actually was able to nail it. And I was actually running up the stairs behind her shooting, because she was running so fast. I had to actually run up the stairs behind her at the same time. So that's actually one of my favorite shots I think I've ever taken, just for that reason, that I knew, knowing how excited she would be, and actually being able to actually capture it. It was straight out of camera, too. It was straight out of camera.
Thanks for sharing your images with us, dude.
Here, let me get out of screen share. Oop, am I back? Yep. Okay.
We've actually got a bunch of other questions. We might have to see if you can answer some of them after we finish the show, but we do have to move on.
Okay.
And we're going to see some work from our panelists who joined tonight as well. And we'd like to start with Christy. Are you ready to screen share some of your work, Christy?
I think so. Okay, so let me go over here, screen share. Where are we? You see that?
So you didn't post-process this at all, did you?
No! But like I said, I haven't been doing this much at all, so I just kind of pulled some, this is my first time doing this or that. So this is the first composite I ever did. So I made sure it was really simple and just chopped my head off and put it on that plate of oranges. It's called It's What's for Dinner. What? The sound is lagging.
Oh, this is cool.
Here. So then I did a artistic mentorship, and the assignment was to recreate a famous piece of art. And so this is Frida Kahlo's What the Water Gave Me, which I really love. So I had to give it my own little twist with my aversion to all things pinkified and Barbie mentality.
That's awesome.
And this was a pain in the butt because I had no clue what I was doing. I probably spent 7 days trying to do this stupid thing. But it finally worked out when I figured out how to paint in the shadows of things underneath.
You know, though, when I saw you share this image, I knew exactly what it was.
Did? Oh, yay!
When I saw it. That's why I knew what you were getting ready to share when you shared the other image first. I thought that was so cool that you did that. That's really
this was fun. And I'm sure there was probably a way easier way to do it than I did, but I learned a whole lot just playing with everything. So
a lot of trial and error work teaches you a ton about what you're doing, doesn't it?
And that goes back to absolutely, and that's, you know, make those mistakes because you learn how not to do things more than how to do them.
Right.
And that's the good part of that. So yeah, trial and error is always good.
Or you learn, combining this with this, you know, does this, and you learn it later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, this I just posted because this is the first time I ever used the perspective tool in Photoshop.
Oh, neat.
And so this is what it was straight. Well, this I actually had already did the white balance. This is the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. It's very yellow. But so I just did that for perspective, you know, and then I made it look a little bit more platinum-y because it was so yellow. But this was I was messing around with Picasso. And so basically what I learned this last year, which changed everything, was masking. I never knew how to do that. So all of these things like this, I've just been playing with masking. And I threw this in here because we were talking about before, especially you were talking about your process, Mark, that you spend hours setting up.
Right.
And normally that's what I do. I'll spend hours and hours and hours and hours getting ready before I ever shoot. And I write on my body a lot or paint. And people would always assume I did that in post. But I actually wrote this with a fine point Sharpie.
Nice.
Like an internal dialogue. And my plan was to do both legs, and I got one leg done. It took me like 2 hours. I was like, screw this. And I ended up liking it with just the one leg. So, and that's just another. This is super simple, just a sheet, and I'm sandwiched in between the sheet and the light. Because people always think you have to have this elaborate setup, and sometimes it's just very simple. Behind. Oh, and this I had to throw in because this is a picture from our event 2 nights ago, the Dallas Fort Worth Drink and Click.
The first Dallas Drink and Click.
Yeah. But I threw this in here because it was super simple, just to throw it into Nick Silver Effects, right, and just make it quick black and white, put a sepia on there, and there you go.
So have you been using that for a long time, or are you new with Nick?
I love Nick. Yes.
Okay, I've never used it.
Thing.
I've heard good things, but I've never done it myself.
This one right here is the first time I ever used Nick Color Effects. And this is Santa Monica Pier. It was very cold, rainy, cloudy, white sky. And I just went in there and started playing with stuff and just kind of cotton candy bubblegumish summery looking.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Sweet. I gotta check Nick out, I think. I've heard so much, and I've been hesitant to mess with anything new or put something else on my computer, so I think I've had several people recently say good things, and I guess
I use Silver Effects Pro a lot. Like
I do too.
When I do a lot of my sharpening, I do most of it in Silver Effects Pro, bring it in, and then vary the opacity on my other layers using that. So yeah, Silver Effects Pro is sweet.
So try it out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I will. Jake, can we get you to share some of your work next?
Sure. You guys see that?
Yes.
So this was actually a scavenger hunt photo taken a while back, and I think the topic on this was fear.
That's definitely a very frightening situation.
There's no post-processing here, all done straight out of camera. So there was few. Sorry, this is everyone's gotten silent, so it's probably too serious. So we're gonna move on.
I love the shot, but it's definitely
that whole series that you did
very
in
serious.
That particular hunt was amazing. That was an awesome series.
Yeah, thanks.
It was confusing on that one because you had all these great shots, and they, I remember I was judging on that.
Oh, yeah, you were
on that
judging.
one.
Right.
And it wasn't until the very end when I saw whose pictures were whose that I realized there was a series to it. It was really fascinating when you did that.
Yeah, that was it was based on a real life event, and it was just kind of me working through some emotions through photography, and not that it helped, but I always think it's cool to kind of put yourself out there and let your art show kind of what you're going through at the time. So
I very much agree with that. That's a very strong thread in my work, and capturing emotion and connecting with it in other people. So when you said like, oh, it's gotten quiet, maybe I shouldn't have shared this, and I totally disagree. I think it's excellent that you shared that. Something with very high emotion. It's I love that kind of work.
So this is my own son back here, and then this is a neighbor kid, and that's his mom. That's a neighbor too. It was kind of crazy for all of us.
You got them to collaborate with you and work with you for the photo. That's cool.
The next one is, let's see, here. Is that working? Yeah, so obviously being a tree guy, this was my background there.
There we go.
This is also a composite. So I took this shot in Olympic National Forest of a clear cut, and then this is one guy that actually works for me, and this was shot in my living room.
Okay, so you shot the fellow in your living room.
Yep.
And you composited him into the landscape image.
Yeah, exactly.
And you used Photoshop?
Yeah. Pretty much all Photoshop on this one.
It's beautiful.
Thanks. Let's see. This one actually is, other than the colorizing, it is pretty much straight out of the camera. I shot this one. I took a toilet bowl lid and stuck it on top of a garbage can, and stuck my camera at the bottom of the garbage can and shot. This is actually my wife. I shot her through the toilet bowl ring. I think the topic was model. So this is a model getting ready to purge.
Oh,
and
nice.
Being walked in on by somebody.
Another fantastic scavenger shot.
So I had a whole list of other stuff, but then I figured since we were talking about post-processing, I'd share all this stuff with you guys.
Yeah.
It's another good one there.
Oh yeah, I like this one.
So this is 3 shots, and the background was 1 shot. This is the same guy in my tree shot. This background was 1 shot, he was another, and then the fire was the 3rd shot there.
It's cool.
Here's my Christmas card for this year.
So awesome.
Santa's on the naughty list this year.
It's my wife. Thankfully, she's got great legs. So.
For a host of reasons.
My son Cooper. So we were he was having a hard time reading in school, so we kind of did a little. I was trying to express to him how magical reading can be, so we did follow it up with this shot.
That's beautiful. Oh, I really like that.
Thanks. This is the same neighbor kid that was in the fear shot.
That's so freaking scary.
So he was actually pretty terrified because the way I shot this is I had him lay on the ground and then I had a cardboard cutout with a hole in it. And I put him on the ground, put the cardboard cutout over his face, then sprinkle a little bit of potting soil over it, and then put these plastic cockroaches in it. And he was pretty freaked out by the whole thing.
Have you seen Alan Shapiro's shot of his daughter where he actually put roaches on her face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That's what when I saw this, I was like, oh my God!
Squeal?
I thought they were real.
No, I said you squealed.
Oh yes, I squeal.
Another one of my son.
I love that. The light is so great in
That's
that
nice.
shot.
I like that.
Let's see. This is another one of Cooper. So this one, it was his birthday.
Wow, that's great.
So I took a leaf blower. This is 2 shots. One is the cake with the candles tilted, and I tilted the candles in Photoshop. And then the other one was actually just me holding a leaf blower up to his face, and that's how I got him to have his
awesome.
cheeks blown out. And then the last one is, let's see. I always love this shot just because it's with my beautiful wife, Liz.
Aww.
That's really cool.
So, yeah, that's what I got.
Did you put milk in the bath?
Yep.
I like the way it looks. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, you bet.
That same milk from the Santa shot?
Same milk from the Santa shot, yeah.
Okay, Sandra, are you ready to share your work?
Yes, I am ready. And just let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Take just a second for it to come through, I think. Okay, we've got you.
Okay. This was a scavenger hunt shot. When I did, I think in my first hunt, I didn't know enough about lighting and stuff then, so this one was a killer for me to process. This is the before shot. This was the after shot.
Oh, neat.
I have a few before and afters here just to kind of show, you know, the differences. So I really had to clean up that background. I didn't have proper lighting, and I really fought with this shot a lot. But it was fun, and I was quite proud of it when it was done. If I was going to do it now, I probably could do a better job of it because I know more now. But back then, I didn't really know very much. This one, I don't have the before shot here ready, but this was, a lot of people kind of assumed that this was a lot of processing done on this one, when really it wasn't. I actually did paint my face with latex paint. Everything is paint except for the black right along the edge of my eye.
Okay.
Even the eyelashes have latex paint on them. The biggest challenge with this was really just cleaning it up, and that was one of my processing tips I was going to talk about, is you need to really clean your images and look for any little speck that might stand out and draw your attention away from the main subject of your photo.
Yeah.
You know, look at the edges of your photo. Make sure there's not a piece of grass or a hair or a piece of litter on the ground or whatever it is. And that's a really important thing, even though it's a very small and simple, very basic thing. So it's a really good basic tip.
Just clone out things like that, right?
Yeah, clone them out or use your healing brush or whatever you need to do. There's so many ways you can do it. You can mask things out. There's a lot of ways. I've been using a lot of the On One Perfect Suite. They're releasing their new version at the end of this month, and so I've got the beta version, and I've been using it a lot, and I used it to do this image. So they have a beautiful black and white module that I think it's, I have Nick, but I haven't used it very much. So, but I think they're quite similar in ways because there's a lot of presets, and then you can mess around with the presets to do what you want, you know, adding color or texture, all those different things. I don't normally add borders to my work, but I did with this one. This was a really foggy day with hoarfrost, and I tend to shoot those a little on the dark side so I don't lose any detail, and then I brighten up a lot when I start processing it.
I love seeing that finished image and how it pops. With
Looks really blown out. What's all that white stuff?
You people from Florida wouldn't have a hot clue about that, would you?
Yeah, right. Me too.
Yeah, it looks blown out to me, way blown out. There's all white stuff everywhere. No
Yeah,
idea
you know what?
that.
In the wintertime, even the sky goes white here. So this actually, well, as you can see, this is the color version. There's not much difference. This was just a recent one that I put up on my page. I liked the flower, but the background was absolutely dull and boring. So again, I used a lot of texture on this one. And I did that by, I used about 5 or 6 layers of texture on this. I really played with the color of the texture to bring it out. And I tried something new. I actually masked out the flower and then used the textures and applied the same mask to several layers. And Mark, I think you were one of the people who came to my rescue the other day when I was asking, how do I duplicate a layer mask? You in Photoshop, so you would hold the Alt button down and drag it to the next layer that you want it to be duplicated on. Yep. And it worked really well. And then the top 2 layers were all the scratchy parts, and so I just put them on the full image, and then took a brush and brushed it out on the layer mask, so that they're still kind of there, but not as much as everywhere else in the photo. This is the before shot. I took this fall down by the river. I went early one morning and there was people fishing there. And I actually didn't do a lot to this shot. I just kind of changed the light around a little bit and kind of made it look like, you know, there was something really special, almost spiritual happening in this picture. So, you know, you don't always have to have a truly dramatic post-processing to make. So you can see there that the light beam was kind of there. You know, I just more enhanced it and made it a little bit more visible by using some vignetting and stuff like that. This is my before shot of my Halloween selfie that I did. I did again paint myself with latex paint.
It's fun to do, isn't it?
Oh God, it's so freaking awful. And I used a new. What's that, Mark?
I love the feeling of it though when it starts cracking on your face. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like starts drawing in. It's awesome.
Isn't there an easier way to do this than latex paint?
What's that?
Isn't there an easier way to do this than latex paint, like a lid mask or something like that?
I wanted to use the latex paint because when I did my eye shot, those crackles were so awesome in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I used a different brand of paint for this, and the damn stuff wouldn't crack. And my eyelids, it was taking forever to dry, and my eyelids were gluing open, and I actually had to use my fingers to like close my eyes. So anyways, whoops, what happened there? So this is the after shot. You know, after I did the processing on it. And I didn't really do a lot other than clean up the skin. I think in this picture I had already done a lot of cleaning, because if you want to see every freaking flaw you have in your skin, put some paint on it, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. God, it's awful. So basically I did...
Every little divot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just brutal. So anyways, I didn't do a ton other than really grunge it up, and I blacked out the whites of my eyes. So it actually looks like it was a lot of post-processing in this, but it wasn't, because I did a lot of it, you know, with the paint in beforehand.
And this was
sorry?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, and that was your contest, your challenge winning.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't even create
challenge.
Yeah. I didn't even create it for that. I did it, and then I thought, oh, hey, look, this challenge, I'll stick it in.
Yeah.
So, and then this is my last shot. This, again, I shot during the same time, the same shoot, and once I was done with it, I ended up with that. And as you can see, like I really got close, like right up to the edge of my eyes, and my eyelashes were actually glued because they wouldn't stand out the way they did in the last, like when I did my eye shot. But yeah, it was fun just to play around and try something really different. And I did leave the eyes just with a little bit of color in this. I'm not crazy about selective coloring when you go black and white. But I also did, like these last two that I showed you, I also used the On One Perfect Suite for those as well. I really do like that software.
I have it, and I don't use it very often. I think it's just, I think I get familiar and very into my kind of ritual of what I do, and then I don't like branch out as much, and I think I need to remind myself to do that. Cause
yeah. Well, you know, and they're changing.
You don't really have.
they have a new, like, they're putting a new program out, and they've, like, moved all the furniture around, and I'm finding it very frustrating because it's like, okay, I used to be able to do this, I used to be able to find that, and now I'm trying to learn where is everything, but it's good, though.
I think it's super frustrating, but I think it is good because I think it keeps our brains more elastic and it forces us to stretch a little bit again and look for something. Well, I'm going to show something really quick of my own as well. We're a little over on time, but I think I'm going to show something really quick. I'm going to show a photo that I used Photoshop for, and then I'm going to show another piece of software that you can use to do something similar. But first I'm going to show this. Okay, sorry, I was opening it. Okay, so this is a recent photo that I was very, very happy with, and I did use Photoshop for this and compositing, and this took a lot of work. Is it showing up?
Yes, oh, I like that.
So this is one of the ones where it took a fairly good amount of time during shooting, throwing leaves around and just taking photo after photo after photo so that I would have all of the leaf options that I wanted later to choose which leaves looked best floating in which part of the photo. So this was one that I went into Photoshop with it, and there were, 50 different layers, and I pulled different things out of each one, and it took a lot of time. And I enjoy that process. I like sitting down. It's not a bother to me if something takes hours of post-processing work. I mean, I felt really good about that when it was done, and I think part of that is how much time and effort is put into it.
That's beautiful.
But then, thank you. Then there was also this image that I shared recently that people seemed to really like and asked about, and that's why I wanted to show it and then mention the software that I used for it.
Lotus, have you always done a lot of selfies, or is this something kind of new since you came to G+?
I had started doing them before, but I wasn't doing them or being as involved with them or setting them up and doing as much. But I think that that's true of my photography in general. I was just really starting at the beginning of my sprint, right around the same time that I started using G+. So I think I got more interested in my photography right at the same time as I was coming into this community, which was really good timing for inspiration and learning. So
I just noticed they're getting better and better and better and better.
I've been focusing on them, and I think something that Christy mentioned is that, I'm under my control. I don't have to make a schedule with someone else or, use someone else. I am the model that's always available to me, so it's it's easy, and I know how I want all of my emotions to be portrayed without having to explain my concept. So. But I shared this photo recently, and people seemed pretty interested in how I had achieved that. And I know that you can do this in Photoshop, but I actually didn't use Photoshop for this. I used a different program called FX Photo Studio Pro, and it's much more affordable. It's about $30 or $40, and you can do a lot of really interesting, quick kind of filter effects with it. Let me show, I'm going to show something, if I can get it to screen share.
What's it called? FX Studio Pro?
It's called FX Photo Studio Pro. And I'm trying to get it to screen share, but I don't think I have it open, it's not giving me the option to screen share that. Oh, that's a total bummer. Because I was going to show you guys how it works. That sucks. Let me try one more thing. Let's see if it'll let me do it like this. Sorry for the delay. Here it is. Okay, so I loaded up a bathroom selfie. Yay! that you can see, and that's the image. So I just grabbed an image and put it in here into this software. Again, it's called Effects Photo Studio Pro. And it's, in terms of like just picking a filter and just laying it on there and doing nothing else, I mean, it's, you know, you can think Instagram or whatever, but there are all different kinds of filters. There's a whole different, like whole different menus. You've got cross-process stuff, color temperature, some vintage stuff. So if you just grab something and throw it on there, you see that?
Yeah.
It's like a quick texture, a quick filter, and it seems kind of down and dirty. You know, you just threw a filter on there. But the cool thing is you can do, you can change the intensity of it with the slider, and then you can actually edit the mask. So you can get a little bit more control over it than, say, you know, your Instagram type, let's just throw a filter on something thing. And you can actually paint in the mask where you want it. Change the diameter of your brush and the softness and the opacity of it and all of that. And you can just really quick and easy do something like this.
Cool.
And then you can you know, do different opacities on different parts of it. So say I want the part of my body to be there, but just not as heavy. And you can erase where you don't want it, whatever. Okay, so I'm just going to do this really quick. And then you can layer the different filters. So I've had a lot of fun with using this because you can get some pretty neat looks without having to know all, like you were saying, Sandra, that you were using all the different layers and you were having trouble and you had to ask somebody. And
Right.
I mean, knowing how to do work in Photoshop is a really good thing, but this is nice to be able to grab a certain look that you might want very quickly without having to have a program like that.
There's a lot of good options out there now, and one thing I meant to mention was on one of the new thing they're doing. One of the biggest things in Photoshop that I go there for is the healing brush.
Yeah.
And the new one, they have a really good healing brush. It's called the Perfect Eraser, and it does a really good job. So people who are looking for another option, they're getting more of the basic tools that aren't so complicated to use, you know.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see other programs are starting to get that, because now with the whole Photoshop controversy, some people are looking for some alternatives, right? So it's good.
Now I'll play devil's, no pun intended, but I'll play devil's advocate here. Where do people stand with this? That this is so easy to do, something that I know if you were in Photoshop, know that what would have to be done to create this, and then, but yet you're doing it pretty much with just click of a few buttons.
Yeah, does that piss people off now that...
Does that piss people off? Yeah, that I know what it would take to actually do that. I can do that in Photoshop. So what are people's views on that it's so easy to do now, where I know that it actually takes a bit of work to do actually in Photoshop? So it kind of takes the whole purist thing and then puts it on the compositors / Photoshop person realm. So anybody want to chime in on that one?
I think it's just whatever your imagination can. I mean, that's the thing, right? Anybody can go out and take a picture. It's what you make of the picture, and it's what your imagination relays to the viewer. And it always comes down to that, whether it's wet plate and you're looking at, some very basic photography skills, or you're looking at composite photography. It's what your image is and how you relate to the viewer. And if it's a one-click thing in Instagram and it still blows somebody away, fuck, okay, great. If it's a 10-hour process in Photoshop, well, sucks for the photographer, but still the same effect.
I think it's important in a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
agree.
ways
I mean, it
to.
doesn't bug me at all.
That's what I want to hear. shouldn't frickin' matter.
It shouldn't matter.
However
not at
you
all.
have to get there.
But
Did
you
it
know
look
what the
cool?
thing is? The thing about learning to do these things in Photoshop first is that you understand what's happening to it.
That's true.
And that can be a very good tool, because if you know, like that you're going to put a Gaussian blur and then you're going to mask something out and then you're going to, put a gradient on all these things, right? Then maybe you can have more control when you go to these other programs and you know what you're actually doing with these things, what the effects are.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people who code, like if you were using a, HTML whatever generator kind of thing, and people say, oh, don't bother learning the HTML. It's like, yes, but if you know that background, then you can go in there and fix what's wrong. You can go read it. It's the same thing. If you know how to do all this in Photoshop, you can go in there and tweak things a lot more. But still, however you have to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like having this. I like having this program. I like having it there. I like being able to achieve some of these effects really quickly. And I know how to do this stuff in Photoshop, but I don't always feel like it.
Oh, no.
So, and it's nice. The other thing about it is, I mean, it depends on what all are you going to do? What's your intention? I mean, do you want to spend the money on Photoshop? Are you going to spend the time? Do you need to have that knowledge? How far are you going to go with your photography? Are you a hobbyist? Are you going to want to be professional eventually? So I think it is nice to share, tips and programs like this that can help people achieve, what their vision might be too, but they don't have the money for Photoshop, but they would like to make this kind of stuff too, right? So
Right.
I think it's a really cool program, and I like to tell people about it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love the hell out of my Photoshop. I wouldn't give it up.
Well, and it goes back to actually what Sandra you were saying. It's like when you know the basis of something, then you can go beyond it. So it's like, yes, that some people don't want to go beyond what you just showed, Lotus. That is kick ass, and that is perfect, and that's awesome. But if you then I want to do this, then you do need to know how to go beyond that. If you do want to know then how to add something more to it, or then you do need to then go back into Photoshop or something like that to take it a step further. But
yeah,
everything is all good as long as you're creating something. That's so it's all good.
as long as you're still being a makey doer.
Yes.
I'm going to add that to my tagline. I'm going to make you do it.
I'm gonna make you do it.
Okay, well, we are significantly over time, but it's been really good talking to you guys.
Are you going to do winners?
I am going to do winners.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to move
Sorry.
to next. No, that's good. I got to pull it up here. That's what she said. I can't believe we've gotten this far into the
She
show.
had to get one in.
I haven't had any That's What She Said jokes. It's been kind of scary. Okay, give me just a second. I need to pull up my album of winners. So for the people that don't know, one of the things we do with Drink and Click with our chapters, which are across the U.S. and around the world, is that we have photo walk events every month, and we have a different challenge or a theme for our challenge every month. And we choose winners who get prizes from our wonderful sponsors. And so the October theme was shadows. And so I'm going to share the winners. Give me just a second. I'm going to open my album. Let's see, our sponsors for October. Dun, 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 dun. Contributed prizes, and we have our third place winner. I may butcher her name. Ina Gatt from the Berlin chapter.
Yes.
Cool.
I like her work.
Yeah.
Yes, she's very good work.
She does a lot of really neat stuff. She's been doing a lot of self-portraits,
Mm-hmm.
and they are really, really creative. So she was our third place winner. We've got our second place winner, Bjorn Kliman.
Ooh.
from the Monterey Santa Cruz chapter.
Nice job.
And then our first place winner is Dara Choi
Cool.
from the Edmonton chapter. And I apologize if I got any of those names incorrect. It's always fun when you just think you're going to butcher somebody's name live on air. But those were our winners for October, so good job, guys.
Yes, yay!
And we have another challenge this month. November's challenge is transportation. So go to drinkandclick.com and see if there's a chapter in your area. Make sure you go on the photo walks and you can enter these challenges. Our sponsors for this month are Pan Am, Gary Fong, and Think Tank Photo. And our sponsors for last month were Think Tank Photo. They're a consistent sponsor for us. And Stuck in Customs and CT Digital Photography Magazine. So we thank all of them. They support us and the photography community. We really appreciate that. So that's it for this show. We've got another one next month with Dave Morrow. We're going to be talking about star photography on December 11th. And thank you guys so much for being on this show. We had a really great discussion about post-processing.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you much.
And thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And we had so many questions, and we weren't able to get to all of them. Actually, there are still questions, but we just didn't have time to get to all of them. But maybe we can address some of them in the event in the next coming days or something. Do whatever we can to get to those. But thanks everybody for your questions and comments and for watching. And good night.
Bye.